Hi, everybody. It's really great that you could make the time to meet me today for the Spring Detox webinar. I'm your host, Bettina, and I'm a health coach and yoga teacher who is on a mission to help people understand the real nourishing value behind food and how a mindset and our attitude can actually really help towards having a healthier lifestyle. Basically, in a nutshell, it means I'm a health coach and I'm a yoga teacher. And I brought this Spring Detox webinar to you today, seeing that it's very topical in spring. Just a brief history about me. I have for a very long time worked in infectious disease research before deciding to become a health coach and yoga teacher. Once I realized how powerful the mindset and our attitude towards ourselves are in actually improving our relationships with food. And this also helped me tremendously see the value in nourishing myself with real foods rather than eating emotionally with highly processed foods that were actually just not nourishing me in the long term and not helping my body emotionally or physically. So we're going to be looking at detoxing today, and I'll basically give you a bit of an idea of what I think a good detox is, what I think is important when detoxing, and we're going to have a look at how detoxes actually work. So I have a few slides that I've prepared of that, but the very first thing that I want to do is just briefly think about, well, actually, what is a detox? If we think of detoxing, that's when we start thinking about cleansing of the body. And this is a very good topic in spring, because spring is generally the season for recharging, rejuvenating, renewal. Now, detoxes have become increasingly popular because they promise to help you release a whole load of toxins from your body. And these toxins, they span a whole bandwidth of various chemicals. And usually what people refer to when they mean toxins is pesticides, industrial chemicals, secondhand smoke, additives in food, heavy metals, pollutants, anything that you can think of. Now, if you ask those people to actually define those toxins more clearly, very rarely the detox industry is able to answer what they actually mean with a toxin. And when you start talking with medics about what a detoxification actually is, in terms of the holistic alternative healthcare, they usually say, well, it's just all bogus. And the reason why they say it's all bogus, that you can't detox, is because our body is an amazing machine, and it detoxes day in and day out. There are 5 organs in particular: the skin, our lungs, and the liver, the colon, and the kidney, that support our detox processes day in and day out. So from a medical perspective, they argue we do not need to detox. There is absolutely no point in detoxing. We don't need to do anything on top of what our body is doing for us day in, day out. And we all know how badly we can abuse our bodies, and it still helps us function as on a day-to-day basis without us having to worry about it letting us down. So what's this whole detox thing about then? it's bogus according to the medical world. So one of the reasons why they're actually arguing that detoxing is bogus is because, quite simply, if the body can't deal with any chemical at low concentration, our body will immobilize that chemical or that toxin and store it in some fatty tissues. That way, it's neutralized. It doesn't affect our body, because if our body would have tried to get rid of that chemical, get rid of that toxin on a normal way, that toxin would have gone most certainly through the liver, most certainly through either the kidney or colon, and it would have created damage. And our body knows to do better than that. Our body knows that if it's so damaging that we can't get rid of it on the normal way, it immobilizes it in fatty tissue. For medics, the only reason to start speaking about detoxification is when it comes to levels of toxins in your body that are really damaging to organs. So you can think about a detox for heavy smokers. We all know that the lung is extremely affected by long-term heavy smoking, and a detoxification basically means stopping smoking completely or even getting an organ transplant. Similar case is, for instance, alcoholic fatty liver disease. If our body can't deal with it anymore, main organs get damaged. And from a medical point of view, this is when you start to have to think about detoxification. So there's no other reason to detox when it comes from the perspective of medics. Still, there is a huge detox industry nowadays. They make a lot of money with all sorts of claims, and quite frankly, this industry wouldn't exist if these kind of detoxes weren't effective. Because quite frankly, after a detox, a lot of people, they feel absolutely amazing. They feel a lot more clear-headed. They are a lot more focused mentally. They might manage to lose a pound or two, depending on what type of detox they're doing, depending on what they actually hope to get out of a detox and how they approach it, how long they're doing it for. But even if there is no actual shift in weight, what often happens is that people do feel lighter, a lot cleaner, more focused, and a lot clearer in their thinking. So there is some truth behind that detoxes can be extremely effective. And one of the things that I really want to do with you as part of this webinar is looking at why that is the case. So to do that, we're going to look at a few characteristics of detoxes, and to do so, I will be switching over to a few slides that I've prepared for this webinar. So you will actually not see me anymore and my face, but you'll see the slides instead. But what I'll do on a regular basis, switch back to see whether there are any questions. You may have noticed that there is a question and answer list on the side where you can ask me questions, although if it gets too many questions at once, I might leave things towards the end. Right, I'm going to switch us over to the slides first though. So let me have a look at this. Start screen share. There we go. And you should be able to see my slides now. I'm going to make them a bit bigger, put them into full screen mode. Here we go. Fantastic. So one of detoxes, they can come in different different packages, essentially. So for some, detoxing is just eating lighter food, a lot more vegetables and fruit, a lot more raw foods, staying away from junk foods, staying away from processed foods. Others go a step further and do choose fasts that may range from anything between like 1 to 7 days. Others, they do water fasts, and then finally we have a complete fast. Now, I have included the complete fast into the presentation here because it is one way to detox, but fasting usually comes from a very spiritual and religious background and is not necessarily the kind of detox that the detox industry thinks of when they're thinking of detoxes. In a way that makes sense because, you know, if someone fully fasts, they can't make money off you. So that's just one of those things. So I've included the fasting for completeness in this presentation, but you'll find that when I talk about detoxes, that I'm actually more talking about the type of fast towards the left side of this spectrum. So eating lighter foods, juice fasting, that kind of stuff. Now, so one of the characteristics, the very first one of a detox, is that you're eating a hell of a lot better than you usually do. Even if we have generally a very clean diet, detoxing often means we get motivated enough to get rid, or at least temporarily avoid, those habits that may not necessarily be associated with completely clean eating. That means we're eating a lot more whole foods. It means we're hydrating a lot better, either through fresh vegetable juices or herbal teas and water. We really make an effort to avoid processed foods, all types of it. And we also avoid alcohol, caffeine, or any drugs that are not prescription drugs. And essentially, if you look at that type of nutrition, what we're doing is looking at an elimination diet. And elimination diets are usually characterized by excluding any foods that are commonly triggers of inflammation, any foods that may have been shown up as allergens, and any foods that have too many pesticides or other toxins. So for some, this even includes being very careful with their skincare products and only using clean oils rather than heavy creams on the skin for the duration of the detox. The other characteristic, so one of the characteristics of a detox is that it's essentially an elimination diet. But the other characteristic is that when we are going through detox, we usually take time for ourselves. We usually don't do it in a phase when we are stressed. We usually avoid having to go to work in that time. We usually avoid having any other commitments. And that also means that we have time to properly relax. We spend time in nature. We get gentle exercise in. We take the time to go for massages and have baths and really, really upgrade our self-care regime. So essentially, it's not just that we're nourishing us differently with the food, but we're nourishing us differently with the way we treat ourselves and the way we behave towards ourselves. And that kicks in a very, very strong relaxation response. So we're going to have a look at essentially the follow-on or snowball effects of these two characteristics in a diet, which will basically help us understand why we are why a detox makes us feel as good as it does. So before I do that, I will quickly just switch back to see whether there are any questions or whether there's anything else that has come up, but I can't see anything. So let's go back to the big screen again. Right. Oh, what's going on now? Bear with me while I'm trying to figure out what is happening here, because my computer seems to have frozen. Right. Okay, I see what has happened. Let's go back to where we are. Still screen sharing, and here we are ready to go on with how our body is affected. No, it doesn't want to go into full screen mode anymore by the looks of it. So let's come out of it. You should still have a lovely nice picture of the slides that I'm sharing at the moment. Actually, I'm gonna try for a third time. There you go. Seems to be working now. Although we're gonna go up. So one of the characteristics we said of detox is that it has a very positive effect on our body, particularly our detox organs. And our detox organs, usually the liver, kidneys, colon, our lungs, and the skin. So during a detox, the load on our liver is quite greatly reduced. Now, the liver is responsible for filtering our blood. It inactivates any drugs. It regulates our sugar, protein, and fat levels within our blood, and essentially what also then is being moved into the body and in various different reservoirs and storage spaces. It produces bile to help us breaking down fats and proteins during digestive processes. It helps us removing waste, and the liver works quite closely together with the kidney and the colon. In that case, any water-soluble waste basically gets passed on to the kidneys so that the waste products can be removed through the urine. Any toxins that are fat-soluble, usually passed on, or not water-soluble, are usually passed on to our colon and then removed with the next time that we're going to the bathroom. We're also avoiding alcohol and coffee. So in general, it's seen that we are avoiding a whole load of trigger foods. We are avoiding a lot of heavy foods. We are avoiding any drugs or stimulating substances. It means the energy that our liver needs to put into processing everything that we're putting into the body is a lot less. And that energy is then available elsewhere in the body. When we then start looking at our next organ, the colon, and like I said before, the colon is really responsible for removing solid waste products, so any undigested fiber or anything that's passed on from the liver to be removed from our body through the colon. Now, on a detox, generally what we're doing, particularly if we still eating lighter foods, it means we're getting a lot more fiber. And a lot more fiber in our gut means the fiber will help us to remove bacteria and the liver waste. So it's effectively passed through our whole intestines, goes through our whole colon before it's removed the next time you're going to the bathroom. Now, the other thing that happens when we change our diet, and partially also through an increase through fiber, is that the gut bacteria in our intestine change. Now, you may have heard about gut bacteria before, but if you have not, gut bacteria are about 1.3 times more available in our body than human cells. And they will all help us with our indigestion, with our digestive processes, with our inflammatory processes, with training our immune system. They're absolutely essential to our health, to the point where it's now been shown that the way the gut bacteria community is put together has an effect on things like diabetes mellitus, particularly type 2 diabetes. It has an effect on your risk of cardiovascular heart disease. It can range from inflammatory conditions within your gut, so think about inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, and it's even been associated with depression, ADHD, and other depressive mental health disorders. So the gut bacteria actually have a huge influence on our health, and as part of a detox, they change often to the better, because they get, with more fiber, the type of food they persist in, because fiber often doesn't get digested by us, but it gets digested by bacteria in our gut. The next organ to benefit from a detox are the kidneys. They're essentially responsible for removing fluid waste products. And what it means is that during a detox, because we are taking particularly care of drinking sufficient water, avoiding things like caffeine, alcohol, anything that has the potential to dehydrate us more, it means that our waste is a lot more diluted, which is a lot easier on the body. Being more hydrated also has a positive effect on our blood volume and the regulation thereof. Essentially, it helps the blood flowing a lot more easily. Plus, with added hydration, it also means that our lymph system is a lot more supported. And of course, seeing that the kidneys receive any waste products that are water soluble from the liver, they are assisting the liver in the detox processes. Our lungs benefit also from detoxes, seeing that we usually take this time to go out for gentle strolls, spend time in fresh air. We do gentle movements and exercise, and often that also means that we breathe a lot more and a lot deeper. So if sitting here like I do, like you're likely doing at this moment, means we're only using about 20% of our lung volume. So you can see that this is totally insufficient to really clear out all these little alveoli in our lungs, these little air bladders, essentially, that get smaller and smaller. And with deeper breath, we are reaching a lot deeper into our lungs and clear out all these little corners that usually that usually are forgotten. So I really encourage you right now, take a deep breath, take a few extra deep breaths, and really notice how it nourishes you. And of course, often as part of a detox, we're also avoiding smoking, which is great for the lungs. And then finally, our skin. With time outside, it gets a lot of vitamin D. If we're taking the time to gently exercise, or maybe even go into steam room or sauna, it means we can remove any excess salts or anything else through sweating through our skin. And like I said before, if you're avoiding body care products as part of your detox, of course, that's going to make it easier on your skin as well. Right. So that basically takes us on now to the second characteristic of a detox, and that is our relaxation response. And the relaxation response is essentially the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, what's that? You probably heard of our nervous system, and our nervous system usually works with two different parts. So with the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Our sympathetic nervous system is basically responsible for anything where we need activity for, anything that requires us to pay attention, do something. And the sympathetic nervous system is very often associated with a stress response. And during the stress response, a large part of your resources, your energetic, your sugar resources, your blood flow resources, your oxygen resources, they're all directed away from our organs and into our limbs. So that firstly means our brain doesn't get that much blood flow anymore and is switching over, because it doesn't need it, because it's switching over to our instinctive brain. We're getting ready to fight and flight after all. The other thing that happens is that we are, the blood with all the blood sugar resources is directed towards the muscles, because that's likely where we're going to need all our energy. Now, as a part of a detox, if we really take the time to switch off, we get a proper activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. And that has a whole load of really positive results in our body. So our appetite regulation works a lot better, and we are a lot less likely to overeat. Because our blood flow during the relaxation response is mainly through our organs rather than our limbs, it means we're more likely to have an improved nutrient absorption. Cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and insulin, which is the hormone which takes sugar out of the bloodstream and puts it into cells, are decreased, which is absolutely great, because both of these can signal weight gain and fat storage, particularly if they work at the same time. They're not working together, they're actually working against each other, but if they do work at the same time, it's usually not a good thing for our body. Our digestion works a lot better because blood is in our digestive organs rather than on our limbs. We are less susceptible to food allergies. As I mentioned before, it's supporting our healthy gut bacteria, this detox, and the relaxation response as a result of it. And we're also decreasing unhealthy cholesterol levels. The relaxation response also is important in maintaining stable thyroid and growth hormones levels. And that's really quite great for those of you that want to actually increase muscle growth, because it helps us to improve our muscle mass. So I'm going to switch over. And here we are again. So you can see that a detox actually has a huge positive effect on our bodies. And the reason why is because there is a lot less exposure to chemicals and other things that affect our regulatory systems. There is a lot more support for our waste elimination systems through the way we eat, through the way we behave during the time. And we get increased nutrient absorption for optimal health. Now, what I strongly recommend to do if you're interested in doing a detox is prepare yourself for it. That's absolutely essential because you don't want to be stressed during a detox. When you're eating, or if as part of your detox you're still hoping, or your aim is to still eat a light diet or have a juice fast, use organic fruit and vegetables. They often have a higher nutrient content as well. Make sure to hydrate and keep your meals really simple. Take the load off your body. And with the make sure that you cover the whole rainbow of colors that there is with fruits and vegetables. Reduce your stress. Make sure that you keep your commitments to a minimum. Book yourself massages. Make time to go for gentle walks. Spend time outside. This is all really important in making a detox successful. And then give yourself a couple of days to come out of it again. So don't just go for a breakfast at McDonald's the next day. It's really not that good for the system, even when you don't detox. So give yourself, for instance, if you're juice fasting, then the next day have lightly steamed vegetables or raw vegetables or some soups, just to make sure you're slowly coming out of it and getting your body used to doing a bit more work again. It's really about being gentle to your body and to yourself as much as doing the detox itself. Really quite good is starting the day with lemon water. And with warm lemon water, if you have something warm, it gently warms up your digestive system as well. And particularly in the spring, having just a bit of lemon in your water has a really cleansing effect. If you're interested to approach a detox more from the point of traditional Chinese medicine, then you might consider having a lot of astringent, sour, and bitter vegetables to support your liver. Because in traditional Chinese medicine, the spring is an excellent time to detox, simply because it's the time of renewal, refreshing mind and body. It's also the time for the wood element, and that wood element is usually associated with the liver, one of our main detox organs. So that is why a detox now in spring is actually amazing. It really supports the growth and our nourishment. So important is to unwind while you detox. Do yoga, go outside, and while you have all this time available, switch off your screens, switch off your mobile phone, switch off Facebook, switch off your iPad, switch off your computers. A detox is much more effective if you don't just work with your physical body, but with your emotional and your mental body as well. So it's really about incorporating the whole mind-body scale. And if you're constantly on screens, what you're going to do is distracting yourself from what comes up. And most likely that's going to end up in a lot of frustration, in a lot of anger. And that is just going to make you feel like you're not achieving what you want to achieve with a detox. It's quite interesting as well because the liver in traditional Chinese medicine is a bit like a general, but it also stores a lot of emotions. So cleansing, if we'd be looking at it from the point of traditional Chinese medicine, would also mean that we're cleansing the liver of the emotions, of all the mental stuff that is going on at the moment. So often TCM practitioners suggest that you really pay attention to these things as it comes up and deal with it rather than keep it suppressed, because it's not going to help you in the long term otherwise. Get exercise, and if you feel you don't, you want to get a bit of a sweat on differently, try to do that in a steam room or sauna. It's really quite beneficial. Now, one of the most important things I find with detoxing is that it's become a very fashionable term in the last few years, and a huge industry has built up. You're promised all sorts of things in a very short amount of time. But one of the things that you really need to be aware of is how you're approaching it. Because fact is, if you just use a detox as an excuse to do another diet, then you're approaching the detox with a whole mindset of limiting yourself, restricting yourself, and in a way punishing your body for all the transgressions that you've previously had. Maybe, now throughout the winter, eating a lot heavier food, eating a lot more starchier food. So for me, dieting really comes from a mindset that is where you also have a very black and white view. Things are good or things are bad. I am good, I am bad. And with detoxing, that's something really you want to avoid, because otherwise you're falling back into this diet mindset, and it's not going to help you in the long term whatsoever, because you'll be walking out the detox thinking you've just deprived yourself again. Most likely you haven't achieved your goals because you couldn't relax. Most likely it ends up you feeling guilty for anything that you feel you haven't achieved, and that you just haven't made good enough effort or haven't had the willpower to do so. So what I'd like what I like to encourage you to do is really start thinking it from a different perspective. So think about it. Okay, I want to see for a few days how I get on giving my body a bit lighter food, nourishing it by not overloading it all the time, nourishing it also mentally by being curious and open to the experience that I have during the detox. Not have any specific goals associated with it, but really just see what's come up. Approach it from a point of self-love, and approach it from a point of nourishing yourself mentally as much as physically. So one of the things that you really want to ask yourself before you go into a detox is like, what's your intention? And once you know your intention, how do you have to approach it? What type of detox are you going to go for? Be very clear on whether you're using the detox just as an excuse to go on another diet. Because I'd rather you don't do that. It's so harsh on yourself, and you and nobody are deserving of that. What is the kind of outcome that you'd expect from this detox? And again, bring in this self-love and the curiosity. Okay, so maybe this is not the outcome that I expected, but what does it actually mean? And just throughout the whole process, be aware of your mind process, the way you think about yourself and the way you approach it. So it's really about self-love and my body nourishment. And then, of course, the detox is great, but fact is, if you can't, but fact is, as much as a detox doesn't determine, as much as a Christmas meal doesn't determine our health for a whole year, even though people like to think that, it's not the case. A detox doesn't determine our health for the rest of the year either. Really, what you want to aim for is to make healthy habits a consistent part of your long-term journey with food. Making healthy habits something that you don't just do during the detox itself, but that you can carry on doing. And even if it's just the one or two things that you find during the detox, oh, these are really working for me, I'm going to continue on with them beyond the detox. So if someone is on the juice fast and finds their green vegetable juice first thing in the morning or as a snack mid-afternoon, perfect, go for it. That's one little thing that you can do, and that isn't too much of an effort. And something that small also means you're more likely to be able to maintain that. And that's fantastic. It's those small little things that really have the long-term effect and that really help us making changes towards the long term. And with all the health and lifestyle related diseases that we've got at the moment, so many chronic diseases that we can prevent, so many chronic diseases where our eating and our healthy lifestyle behaviors really affect how we feel in 30, 40, 50 years. It's so important to start looking after our health now so that we still have the mobility, the energy, the zest for life when we get, I don't know, 70, 80, 90, 100. Who says we can't get to 100? And wouldn't it be amazing if at 100 we can still walk about and look after ourselves than having to be in a home where we just lie about, can't move, and are not there with our mental facilities anymore. Fact is that in a lot of countries that don't have these lifestyle associated diseases, morbidity before we die is 1 year and less, whereas here in the westernized world, it's about 5 to 6 years. That's a long time. That's a real long time. And we can prevent this through the food we eat. So make sure you eat whole foods as much as you can in your daily life as well, not just during a detox. Avoid those processed foods. They're really not great. Focus on organic fruit and vegetables and have a good balance between raw, cooked and fermented foods. High quality proteins and fats are so important in our diet, and so are carbohydrates. It's the sugars that we should avoid, not the carbs. They're essential, particularly for our mood also. And I'm very guilty of, if I don't make sure I get my carbohydrates, yeah, you don't want to be around me. So your take-home messages from this is like, detoxing is an extremely powerful way to support your body's elimination system because you're keeping the load, what they have to deal with on a daily basis, low. It requires the right mindset and attitude though. Don't do it from a point of limiting yourself or punishing yourself or trying to change something desperately yourself. You're perfect just the way you are. You do not have to change anything about yourself. You're beautiful and you are loved the way you are. And if not, let go of these people because they don't serve you. Approach the whole thing with a point of nourishing yourself and start applying these principles of self-love to yourself. You've got so much love to give, so there's a bit spare love in there for you as well. So the one thing, the final thing I really want to say about detoxes is that they can be absolutely amazing, and they can also be a great way to just kickstart a healthier lifestyle. Just make sure you're like well prepared for it. Take your time going into it and out of it again, and then decide on 1 or 2 habits that you want to maintain for longer. Now, if you already know that you really want to work on changing your long-term health habits, supporting your health, and rather than doing it in a very quick way, which is not sustainable, but really looking it into a way where you over time slowly start making changes. You might be interested in a program that I will be leading for 31 days in May again. So it's one of my signature programs. It's an online program, and it's really got fantastic content to make these long-term changes that we've just spoken about. So it's usually the first 2 weeks they focus on nutrition, what is actually good nutrition, what do we need to look out for, because quite frankly there is so much misinformation out there on what a good balanced diet is nowadays. So we particularly look at nutrition for energy and nourishing our bodies from the inside out, because ice cream may be emotionally and mentally nourishing at times, but it's physically not so nourishing in the long term. There's nothing wrong with ice cream. I love my occasional ice cream as well, but we really want to step up those fruit and vegetables and want to know why. Now, part of this nutrition aspect is also looking at how stress affects our eating behaviors and our nutrition patterns, and how it interferes with nutrient absorption, and why we really want to aim for a more stress-free life to keep this nourishment up. And then the second half of the program is really about nourishing our mind-body. So starting to think about the way we think about food, the way we think about ourselves, and how this affects our relationship with food, because quite often we know what we really should be eating. We know what we really should be doing, but quite frankly, it's a lot easier said than done. So that second part will already be working on helping you break down those things that are holding you back or have been holding you back so far to make long-term changes. And it will also start looking into how your mindset and attitude affect your relationship to food, and the way you may potentially be self-sabotaging, because it's not unheard of. So the program itself, you get daily emails throughout May. Seasonal recipes will be included. They will usually be dairy and gluten-free. Most of them are vegan. Also, I'm a strong believer in a plant-based diet, not a vegan diet. It's just because I'm vegetarian and the recipes are dairy-free. Most of them turn out vegan. I usually have lots of options though to upgrade them with making, including a lot of suggestions for how you can integrate healthier meats or fish into the meal as well. As part of the program, you get access to a private Facebook group where we can basically exchange any ideas we're having on integrating the knowledge that we learn, where you can ask me questions if anything is unclear, where we can support each other in making those changes. And towards the end of it, rather than a lot more recipes, you tend to get more exercises that get you starting to think about those transformational tools for success. The whole thing costs 31 emails, and I've got a very fantastic offer for you. If you want to join with a friend, then both you and your friend only pay 25 euros instead of the 31 euros for the program. You can get in touch with me through my email if you want to sign up. It's bettina@avibrantlife.eu. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'm going to bring this webinar to a close now. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll be hanging about a bit. You still see the questions on the side, so you can type in there. But also feel free to, if you still have any questions, send me an email, and I'll try my best to answer those questions. I know that you usually get the view about 40 seconds to a minute delay. So I'm just going to keep my eye on here for now. But as always, you know, I'm also available on via email. And of course, most of you by now may also have joined my private Facebook group, where I generally try to support people, where I generally try to motivate people, which is really a bit of where you can get the community support, which is often essential in making changes long term. And if you have not, I will send out an email later on. I'll include the link to there again. And I would love for you to join, because we're starting to get a really nice group together. And I would love us all having a really good community where we can bring those questions and concerns to the table that affect our journey to a healthier lifestyle, and that also you know, discuss things that hold us back and, you know, making changes. Because quite frankly, we're all there. We're all human. We're not perfect. And it's not perfectionism that we need. We all just need consistency and a lot more self-love towards ourselves. Right, anyway, I haven't seen any more questions coming, so I'm going to close it up. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Catch some of that sunshine. If you've got some, like we've got here in the Brussels, I will certainly do. I'll send you that email in a short while with the Facebook group link, with more information to the 31-day program as well. And if you had issues watching parts of this, then I'll also send you the link to the replay. For now, sending you lots of love. Have an amazing rest of the Sunday, and bye-bye. See you soon again. Take care.